So what is this study about? It is a qualitative approach study with a case study design where 3 cases were conveniently sampled and the data were generated through open-ended questionnaires, photographs, semi-structured interviews and reflective journals. And the participants were 3 final year BECE student teachers, and it was done during their 3 months work integrated learning experience at various preschools. They presented learning activities on the topic shadows, and they used provocations from the Reggio Emilia approach, and then they observed what happened and they documented their learning. It was a fusion between STEAM and Reggio approach and provided the children with relevant educational opportunities to develop long-term habits of learning. And why was this done? Children are natural and curious scientists who want to make sense of the me-you world. So it was actually a combination of various things. The students learned about the Reggio Emilia approach in the Early Childhood Development Studies module. They learned about STEAM in the Science and Technology module. They learned about research in the research module. They did the work integrated learning. This was now the practical application of all the theory that they've learned. And then the theme chosen was shadows, and everything was against the backdrop of playful learning. So natural science guides children to develop an understanding and vocabulary of the me-you world. The core in transforming young children's functioning is to help them discover the meaning of myself in relation to others within my environment. This is called the me-you world. Intentionally instilling the subject natural science and technology in the early years transforms the experience of this me-you world and cultivates experiences of interconnectedness, curiosity, purpose, interdependence, and unity. Natural science is encountered by the young child in 2 ways. Initially, as spontaneous concepts, and then later on as scientific concepts. Spontaneous concepts are used when children describe their everyday me-you world experiences in everyday language, whilst scientific concepts represent the generalization of the same everyday me-you world experiences that are fixed in science and are therefore systematically and intentionally instilled by a teacher using tools and artifacts. So, for instance, if a child looks at the moon and he says, "Look, Dad, the moon is broken." That's an example of spontaneous everyday language. And the father may reply, "It sure does appear so, but do you know what we call it when it looks like that? We call it an eclipse." So that's where scientific vocabulary comes in. In a school situation, if the child says, "Look, teacher, everyone has a shadow," that's a fact and an observable evidence. The child says, "My shadow can grow and shrink." It's also observation, inquiry, and inference. The child says, "I wonder if I have a shadow at night." That's hypothesis and curiosity. And if the child says, "Shadows come from my body," that is a misconception and it requires more information. So once the concepts and the vocabulary associated with natural science have been internalized by a young child, it transforms the child's lay knowledge and the child's understanding of the world. So spontaneous concepts become structured and conscious and raise the child's level of thinking and functioning. Scientific concepts therefore mediate the child's thinking, reasoning, problem solving, and functioning. So STEAM was used as a framework, and STEAM is not a particular method or way of teaching, but it's more an approach to integrate various subjects into the curriculum with real-world problem-based activities in a creative and hands-on manner. So STEM is well known. That has been with us for many years, and later on STEAM was added to that. And that is where the A is added to the acronym. And the A is an integration of all forms of expressive arts, which include reading, writing, music, drama, as well as visual arts and design. So then it means science and technology is interpreted through engineering, arts, and based in mathematics. So all of these are integrated. Literature tells us the children don't learn best through direct instruction, but when they are actively participating and when they're using their senses and when they're working and exploring with real objects. And this is echoed by the Reggio Emilia approach that promotes cooperative learning environments and where experience and self-expression are very essential and of central importance. And I found that there's a gap. There's research about STEAM and there's research about the Reggio approach. But there's not, I couldn't find any research about integrating the two. And that is why this study is trying to address that gap. So the Reggio Emilia approach, if you connect it to natural science, the look that they've got about that, they say children must have some control over the direction of their learning. Therefore, young children must be able to learn through experiences, touching, moving, listening, and observing. And they are in dialectical relationships with others and with materials in the world that they should be allowed to explore. Play, creativity, and imagination serve as the point of departure to meet the children where they are and open the opportunity for the teacher to begin to appreciate their unique reasoning, functioning, and understanding. So there are several key principles, key components in the Reggio Emilia approach, and everything is based on the fact of respect. Respect for the child, and that the child is not a future citizen, but a current child citizen. And there you can see all the different principles, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, but the three that's highlighted, the environment as the third teacher, the provocations, and the documentation, those were specifically central in this study. So if we talk about provocation, sometimes there's a negative connotation to the word provocation, but it is such a key term already well known in the Reggio Emilia approach, and it actually just means it's an invitation or a proposal that provokes thoughts, discussions, questions, interests, creativity, and ideas. It expands on a thought, a project, an idea, or interest, and it encourages children to explore and express themselves. It should be open-ended and provide a means for expression where possible. So there are different examples. One can use photographs, books, pictures, natural specimens, something like the change of season or light, and children's interests and questions. Then documentation, that is where we provide visual and verbal traces of the children's experiences and work. And that provides opportunities for reflection, as well as revisiting and interpreting their work. So they are very much involved in this process. So it's making the children's learning visible, which encourages them to become central to their own learning. So what happened is the student teachers designed and presented learning activities on the topic shadows, and they used provocations to the children and then observed and documented how they engaged with these activities. And they asked how, what, and why questions, which are at the core of the STEAM knowledge basis. And their critical reflections were inspired by their own practice, documentation thereof, and then also interviews with the teachers. So there was an inquiry cycle involved, the provocations, which were the shadows, the exploration, where the children explored and discovered the objects, documentation of what they did, and then reflection afterwards. And then it went on. So there are three cases in this study. So I'm explaining the first one, case study 1, and then you will see in the top, in the title, there's an acronym, the acronym of STEAM, but with a uppercase and lowercase letters explaining where the focus is. So this first one was where the children just used their bodies, and they said, can you change your shadow? Can you move it? So you see, there's definitely science. The technology part is not so clear, and there was not engineering here. Art as well because they've made something artistic with their bodies and not so much maths involved here. Then she asked, can your shadow resemble an animal? And then they asked each other, can you guess what kind of animal I am? So there were guesses of an alligator, a dragon, and a lion. And then they still used their bodies, but they had to trace a friend's hand. And the friend had to hold the hand still. So there the art was coming in. And the last one of this case was where they had also now been introduced to objects, and they discovered that the objects also have shadows. So they got several plastic animals they could choose from them, and they made comments also there about those animals. Like, I chose the ostrich because he has my favorite color of feathers, and the other one said, when I turn the rhino, he looks like I poached his nose. So this child is definitely already aware of the poaching. All right, in the second case, the children explored with these shadows, and they had to compare whether whose shadow was the longest and the shortest. So there's a bigger focus on the maths and again the science. And then they played Rotten Egg as a game, and they were trying to catch the shadows. And then also they traced a friend's shadow and then painted it. And they traced the shapes and they painted the images. So the art part is very clear here. Then in the third one, here we can see that engineering has played a big part, because the children were asked to play with blocks, and then they discovered what happened with the blocks and shadows, and they made a town. So you can see the different scientific concepts like cause and effect and change and adaptation, all of those that are also part of this experience. And then in this one, technology came in, because the children were using now the old-fashioned overhead projectors that are not even fashionable in schools anymore, but are so useful in the regional media approach. So the children used natural objects, they placed it on the overhead projector, and they also used torches, and they made shadows, they created shadows by using that. So the data was now collected and analyzed by Atlas TI qualitative research tool for coding and analyzing, and it became evident that the student teachers understand and appreciate that children's learning does not happen in silos, but necessitates the integration of children's interests and active learning engagement opportunities to construct their own knowledge. So the themes that emerged, there were 3 themes from the reflections of the student teachers. The first one is the value and the richness of the environment. So the one said, the children could view the shadows clearly and also found shadows around us created by nature. They ran around looking for anything in nature that had a shadow, and they named it. It was said by another one. The second theme, inspiring the acquisition of knowledge, skills and values. So the one said, learners were able to link their knowledge with shadows now by actually experimenting with shadows firsthand. They were amazed by how shadows were created, and that in order to form a shadow, you need a source of light, or the sun. Then also, children learned how to make good observations, and they also developed their science process skills. These include communicating, measuring, classifying, and critiquing. And last one in this theme, they learned how to use all their senses during activities that are open-ended. Then in the last theme, displacement in thinking about teaching, the comments were, I think the approach has affected the way that I see learners learning best. The other one said, I thought that my lessons would be chaotic and that the learners would be overwhelmed with the amount of resources that they could use. I was surprised when the learners showed control and were able to actually operate with me and the way the lesson was supposed to go. And the last comment about English themes, I'm much more open to using the approach in future. I'm encouraged to use more open-ended resources as the learners can be encouraged to explore in their own ways. So the final findings and recommendations, it was found that by fusing STEAM and the Reggio Emilia approach, preschoolers are provided with significant educational opportunities to develop long-term habits of learning. The awareness of ways to fuse STEAM with Reggio could guide educators to inspire children to develop long-term learning habits like problem solving and creativity development. This might be a worthwhile topic to explore in future research projects. And that is the end of this presentation. So I thank you for listening.
Wow, that was really great. I really loved that presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Judy from Heerden. I just thought very practical and great for researchers who are normally stuck in a office behind a laptop or a computer to see such practical and exciting research. I also thought great ideas for practitioners working on STEAM activities, and the idea of using shadows is such a rich topic. So we still have about 3 or 4 minutes for questions. If anyone wants to write their questions in the chat, otherwise you can just raise your hand and you can ask the question directly. As I also said at the beginning, Judy's email address is on her abstract, which is linked in the program. So if you'd like to contact her directly to talk more, you're welcome to do that, I'm sure. So I'm just going to give it a minute or two to see if any hands come up or if any questions come through. Yeah, I think we're good. Judy, do you want to have any final thought, or you want to conclude any more words on the matter, or are you okay?
No, I'm okay. I think I've spoken enough.
A shame.
You've listened.
Thank you. You did a great job.
So I just want to say thank you for chairing this session also so nicely, and good luck for the rest of the participants also if you are presenting, and enjoy the other sessions.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, okay. And then you just have one comment that says, wow, I really enjoyed listening to this presentation. Thanks very much for the feedback. That was from Hanti Taron, and Loretta Pretorius is currently busy chatting.
Oh, that is so kind. Thank you very much.
I just want to make sure it's not a question before we move on. Just check there's no hands. I think we're okay. Thank you for the informative presentation. Very interesting, from Loretta Pretorius. Okay, great. Judy, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks to all of you. Goodbye.
Bye. For those who are staying, we have our next presenter is Dr. Nicholas Dowdall. I'm just waiting for him to arrive in the session, and then we will begin. Hi, everyone who has just joined us. We're just waiting for Dr. Nicholas Dowdall to join the chat, and then we're going to start. Hopefully he's here in the next few minutes. We do not have a backup presentation, a video of the presentation, so I'm just hoping he'll join us in the next few minutes. Hi, everybody. So I just want to quickly put the screen back on. There we go. Dr. Nicholas Dowdall was going to be presenting on the 2021 National ECD Census. Unfortunately, he is not here, so we're not going to be able to do the presentation as we don't have a backup of his, a video backup of his presentation. And the next presenters who are coming on at 10:30 are not here yet because obviously it's half an hour early. So I'd suggest quickly joining one of the other sessions and coming back at 10:30 for the next one. Sorry about that. But I'm sure you will find another great presentation on one of the other streams.
Hi, Arlene. Oh. Hi, Michaela Mastura.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. I just wanted to say thank you to Arlene because I had issues with the payment of my fees, and she very kindly sent me the program, even though our supply chain people, of course, were taking their time.
Oh, shame.
So thanks, Arlene.
You're welcome, Mastura.
Okay, okay.
Join.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Michaela,
yes,
you want to try and get hold of Leonie because she submitted her presentation and the 10:30 presenter.
Yes.
So I will try and get hold of
I have the backups. I have the backups.
Yeah. So you okay? All right.
10:30 and 11. So I think that would be okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, you
If
can.
you want to, yeah, if you want to,
I'm okay.
Yeah, if you want to, you can stay in your session, or you can join other sessions and just come back to your session at just before 11.
You mean 10:30?
At 10:30, sorry.
I'm going to leave it open in case other people join
Yes.
and know what's going
All
on.
right. Okay, sure. All right, Michaela.
Thanks, Arlene.
Okay.
Dr. Deborah Arasomwan, I can see that you're there and I'm very happy to see you.
Yes, so, okay, sorry, I will just on my video now. Can you now see my face there?
Now I can, yay. I'm so happy you're here. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you so much. I've been battling with connectivity.
Oh no.
Thank you.
Are
Okay.
you fine though, do you think?
I'm fine.
Okay, good. I do have a backup of your presentation, so I was ready for it if you had not been able to connect, but I'm so glad you're here.
Okay.
I'm just going to introduce myself and tell everyone where we are, and then I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Let's just check, are you able to share your screen? Just hold on one second.
Okay. Just give me some minutes now to share my screen.
There we go. Try now.
Okay, thank you.
Ah, I see it. Perfect.
Is my screen visible, please?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well done. Okay, I'm just going to introduce us, and then I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure some of the other sessions went over a few minutes, so there'll still be more people to join. But in the meantime, I'm going to introduce us and we can start and people can join as they can. So my name's Michaela Ashley Cooper. I am from the Centre for Early Childhood Development. We're an NGO based in Cape Town who are co-hosting this conference along with SARA-EC and CPUT. Well, there I am. There's a screenshot of me on the screen. So today's session is presented by Dr. Arasomwan, and the session is entitled Early Childhood Care and Education, Educators' Understanding of the Use of Music to Teach Communication Skills to Young Children, which I think is quite exciting. We're going to have 20 minutes for the presentation and 10 minutes for the for questions at the end. You're welcome to write them in the chat group, or you can just raise your hand and actually ask the question if you want to. The session is being recorded, and if you could please have your video and your microphone off, it makes it easier for everyone listening. Other than that, Dr. Arasomwan, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashley. Okay. Good day, everyone. I'm Arasomwan Deborah, and then this is my presentation. The title, please. Am I clearly heard?
Yes, you are. You are absolutely clear.
Okay. So the title of this presentation, as she has earlier said, is Early Childhood Care and Educators' Understanding of the Use of Music-Based Pedagogies to Teach Communication Skills to Children ages 3 and 4. So that's just the focus, age 3 and 4. Under my abstract, early childhood care and education learners have unique needs. That is, their natures, their ways of learning differ drastically from that of youths and adults. And hence, specific pedagogies need to be employed to support their acquisition of essential skills, including communication skills. A great deal of research has been conducted on the use of music-based pedagogies to teach other skills such as mathematics, life skill, civics, and literacy at various levels of education. But in South Africa here, where this is still relatively new, ECC is still a new niche here, very little structure has been put in place to facilitate best approaches to teach communication skills to ECC learners. Thus, the aim of this study was to explore now ECC educators' use of music-based pedagogies to positively impact children's communication skills and language development. The study is just a case, qualitative case type conducted at just two urban ECC centers in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. The study was informed by its reconstructive paradigm underpinned by Vygotsky sociocultural theories, which advocated that children be supported, children be heard, be comforted by the more knowledgeable others. So data were generated through semi-structured interviews, classroom observation with 6 educators through document analysis. And then the data, generated data were analyzed semantically. The finding from the study shows that the ECE educators from this very context have some levels of understanding of using music-based pedagogies as a strategy for teaching communication skills to children age 3 and 4. However, they have constraints. Their limitations include insufficient training, and inclusion of music-based pedagogies in both pre-service teachers' curriculum and the ECC curriculum. Hence, the study recommended a comprehensive review of the content and the implementation of the ECC curriculum in relation to music-based pedagogy. So, one of the key requirements for sustainable early childhood development is effective educators, well-trained educators who understand developmentally appropriate practice, and they are able to employ diverse approaches to transfer skills to children. Okay, they understand the nature of children, and they are willing to employ these different strategies now to teach. So research has shown that many children below age 5 are from disadvantaged economic background, and they are faced with challenges that affect their readiness for further learning, okay, such as malnutrition, general poor health, and many other things. Hence the need for employing diverse strategies to help them to learn. Some literatures were reviewed that speak to this very topic. So, we discovered from Adam Sojubele, Molesane, that early years education forms the building blocks and the basis for creativity, health and cognitive, emotional and social well-being. And the early acquisition of this language and communication skill give children the foundation to explore the world and new ideas. And also, the UNICEF in 2014 added that early childhood is a critical stage of development that forms the foundation for children's future well-being and learning. And it's also the key to a full and productive life for a child, as well as to the progressive of a nation. So the next one now, I just review literature that speak to music-based pedagogy on how it can be used to teach communication. So from the previous literatures, we discovered that the use of music-based pedagogies has been shown to enhance learning and to create a constructive classroom atmosphere. A study conducted by Brito affirmed that the application of developmentally appropriate implementation strategy, such as the use of songs, rhyme, play, and other things, will help to achieve sustainable early childhood development. And of course, for many people across the globe, music is an important part of everyday life. There's no any culture without music. And there's no any child that doesn't know how to sing. In addition to its cultural importance, many studies have also found that music plays a key role in early language acquisition, that music can help boost language learning. And also, we've discovered that both language and music are represented with symbols. They share the same characteristics. Hence, it can be used as pedagogical approaches to teach. Then I also review some literature that speak to how educators understand this using of music-based pedagogy to teach communication skills. And finally revealed that nearly all South African universities offer creative arts training in their pre-service teacher education programs, although the subject is usually taught in a single semester, and music is only one component of this creative arts. But pre-service teachers, they are given basic knowledge of the use of music in the classroom. And then now they are constrained. From the previous literature review, we discovered that they are faced with challenges. They are faced with a range of barriers to using music rhymes to teach in their classroom. Whitcourt in 2013 examined the challenges in teaching improvisation in elementary general music and found that a lack of music aids, lack of self-confidence, and inadequate musical training were barriers to the effective use of music in the classroom. And then now the question I now asked, the question that backed up this very research was, what is the EC educators' understanding of using music-based pedagogies as strategies for teaching communication skills to children age 4 to 3, age 3 and 4. The study was grounded on Vygotsky's sociocultural theory because the children, they needed to be scaffolded, they needed help. And also the pedagogical content knowledge designed by Schurman. On that method, socio-constructive ethnographic method within the classroom and outside the classroom involving observation were used. Interseminal structured interview was done with the participant. About 6 of them, who are all females and are working with children aged 3 and 4. And the data was analyzed semantically. Before proceeding on these studies, ethical clearance certificate from the University of KwaZulu-Natal Research Ethics Committee, as well as gatekeeper and participant consent were acquired before conducting the studies. And the findings are presented and discussed under the following. The first theme, the nature of early childhood care and education educators training. What is the nature of their training? Okay, so the participant response revealed a connection between their training and their ability to effectively employ music as a teaching strategy to teach communication skills in the classroom. And then one of them stated, in fact, they all stated that, oh, they are well trained. About 6 of them were interviewed with participants of these studies. 2 of them were well trained, 2 partially trained musically, and then 2 others do not even receive musical training. See, 2 of them well trained, 2 partially trained, but 2 no music training. And I went further to find out how they are using this music to teach communication skills. And these are their responses. They stated that from the 2 centers, they claimed that children are too young to learn communication skills. See, one of them stated, we do not have specific content on communication skills because they are too young for that. But we use music for virtually all the activities, and children learn quicker when you teach with music, including speech development. This was the response from one of them. Okay, although they use music in the classroom, but they do not have any specific model for communication skills. And then I also went further to find out their understanding of using music-based pedagogy. And they gave their voices on their understanding of the use of music-based pedagogy. One of them stated that I have good understanding of the importance of music to children development. You see, so they have understanding. They understand that it is good to use music-based pedagogy in the classroom with these children aged 3 and 4. One of them said, I can provide simple music for any topic I choose to teach children. They use lullaby, they use rhymes in the classroom. And this one particularly, when I was observing the class, I noticed that she's very good musically. Okay, so finding shows that this participant, they use music in the classroom to teach. They have level of understanding of music to teach. However, they are faced with some constraint. So the barriers now, they stated that they have the understanding, but there are barriers. They were not well trained when it comes to music-based pedagogy, and also a lack of resources and non-inclusion of music in the NCCE documents, not CAPS please, the NCF document, which is meant for children 0 to 4 years. Okay, so they say they highlighted barriers such as lack of sufficient training as problem challenges for their effectively using music in the classroom. And then from my activity 2, I watched to see the interview, what they gave me in the interview, how are they putting those views into practice. So one of them says, when it comes to singing, the children are awake, enthusiastic, and lively, because I witnessed it. I saw it during the observation exercise in the 2 centers, how lively they were when it comes to the use of music to teach any skill to them. The implication of the finding of the study. The finding may have implication for ECC policy planners, curriculum designers, implementers, and higher education institutions that train pre-service educators in South Africa. Policy makers should put in a place well-structured plan that accommodates context that's relevant and beneficial to the learner's need. In particular, should promote the use of music-based pedagogies to teach communication skills. Also, pre-service teacher programs must teach ECC educators multiple pedagogies for inclusive classrooms, knowing that these children are from different backgrounds. See, and then they must employ pedagogies that suit the children's developmental stage in nature, according to Piaget's advocate and suggestion. Also, teacher training institutions should encourage the acquisition of practical musical skills and avoid just teaching theoretical aspect, musical knowledge. And they should also endeavor to extend their learning of music pedagogy beyond just one semester. They complain teaching, just being taught music within a semester is not enough for them to effectively use it as pedagogy or use it as a medium of teaching in the classroom. So, and also professional development intervention programs pedagogies of in-service teachers who are initially undertrained. Yes, in-service programs should be provided to help upgrade those teachers that were not well trained before based on the complaint of the participant of this very study. Now, recommendation. This study was just a qualitative case study of a sample of 6 ECC educators from just 2 urban centers. So thus, I suggested that more elaborate and in-depth research be conducted on more centers and larger or different population, especially educators from the rural settings who deal with vulnerable children. There's also a need for further research on how ECC educators in South Africa are following the NCF document by using musical pedagogy to support the children to learn communication skill. Communication skill is included in the NCF curriculum document, but the participants of these very 2 centers are not using they are not following the document. There's need for follow-up to see how they are following this document. And then the further study could focus on questions such as, how does the use of music as a pedagogical medium aid the children's language development? Because that's the focus, helping their language development. And how are they following the NCF document? In conclusion now, in South Africa, a speedy intervention to improve learners' communication skill has become imperative. This study confirmed that ECC educators have some levels of music-based pedagogies to teach communication skills to learners. The finding further revealed that music-based pedagogy has a positive effect on ECC learners' acquisition of these skills. The findings emphasize that using music-based pedagogies at the foundational level of education is important for ECC learners' effective acquisition of communication skills, and that all barriers to effective implementation be removed. Thank you so much. This is the end of my presentation. The other slides, they are just the literature that I consulted while conducting this research. Thank you.
Dr. Arasomwan, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I just want to, yeah, there we go. I just wanted to say I love the research that's focused on the creative arts. That's really wonderful. And I think using music in the context. I would like to hand over to the participants if there's any comments or questions. Check.
Okay.
But I don't think this afternoon. I should maybe do shopping.
Right.
I'm also just going to mute some people. Hold on 1 second. Okay, in terms of the comments, so Leonie van der Westhuizen says, with this presentation, you confirmed once again that language development takes place in all other pedagogies, which is so true. I don't know if you want to comment on that or not.
Sorry, can you come again, please?
With this presentation, you confirmed once again that language development takes place in all the other pedagogies.
In all the other pedagogies as how? I didn't get your question, please.
That's a very good question. We'll wait to see if she clarifies. I think it means that language development can take place in so many different ways, not just in the teaching of language. So in the use of music, for example.
Oh, the focus is how to support them, using music to teach language communication. How to use music to develop them in terms of the acquisition of language skills. That's what this study is all about. That is, music can be used as a pedagogy to help the children to learn language skills. Yes, to learn communication and skills.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think there's any other questions, but let's just give it a minute just to make sure. Some people, take a moment just to think about what they've heard before they want to ask a question. I think we're actually all done. Dr. Arasomwan, I'm not sure if you just want to say your last closing words before we end off.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. You can ask the question.
Just hold on a second. So Leonie just says, I mean, it's not only in language as such where language is enhanced. Using music is used in your presentation. Yes, so exactly what we were assuming she meant. The idea that you can enhance language through music is such a great takeaway. So I think we're done for now. There's no more comments or questions. I just want to thank you so much for your time. It was lovely to see you and hear about the research you've been doing.
Thank you. Have a nice day, please.
Bye, you too. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you everyone for listening. I wish you all the best.
For those of you still in the session, we're just going to wait till 11 when Mrs. van der Westhuizen is speaking on teachers' use of digital methods in early childhood language lessons, a South African case study. The presenter is here, which makes me very happy. Leonie, can you hear me?
Hi, Michaela. Yes, I'm here and I'm waiting anxiously.
I don't think there's any reason to be anxious. This is a very nice audience. I can't tell you how deeply happy it is when I see the presenters of the session in the session before the time. So comforting.
Yes, but I felt it linked quite nicely to my topic. So I made sure to be here on time in the previous one.
Okay, I'm just going to share the screen just so people can see the topic that is coming on now. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see that.
Great. Do you maybe want to actually check if your presentation is sharing correctly? I'm going to suddenly thought, let me actually not share my screen. And then you can try and share yours.
Okay, I'll do that.
Ah, perfect. So I'm just going to have my camera on to introduce us. I don't know if you want to have your camera on when you speak or not. It's up to you.
I think I'll have it switched off. I'm worried that the presentation might dip, but I can quickly switch on to say hi, that everybody can just see.
I like putting a face to a presentation.
Yes. Hello.
So we're just going to give it 2 minutes in case there's any any people who are coming on time. We're 2 minutes early.
So the screen shows nicely my presentation.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay.
Right, I think I'm going to start. I'm just doing the introduction. And then we have a full 20 minutes for the presentation and 10 minutes at the end for questions. So my name is Michaela Ashley Cooper. I'm from the Centre for Early Childhood Development. We're an NGO based in Cape Town, working throughout South Africa, and we're co-hosting this conference with Surrey EC and CPUT. Today's topic is within the Transformative Pedagogy session, and today's topic is teachers' use of digital methods in early childhood language lessons, a South African case study presented by Mrs. van der Westhuizen. As I just mentioned, the presentation will be about 20 minutes, and then we have 10 minutes for questions. If people want to raise their hand and ask the questions at the end, I'll facilitate that. Otherwise, people can also write in the chat on the side, and I can read those out loud. The session is being recorded, and if you could just turn your videos and your microphones off if you're not presenting, that would be great because it helps with the presentation. So that's it from me. Over to you, Leonie.
Yes, I'll also switch off my video just now so that you can see my presentation. I would like to introduce myself. I'm the head of School of Education at Centurion Academy, based here in Centurion. We have campuses all over the country. I teach early childhood development, and I would like to share with you the research I did for my master's degree, where I specifically focused on how teachers understand and use digital play when teaching language to children in the early grades. So you can see wide links with the previous presentation with the use of music in language development. For this study, I made use of a South African case study of one primary school in Centurion, where I worked with all 8 grade R teachers in the school, which included the head of the department. Here is a summary of my the research that I did, and I would like to look at all the different components of my research that I did, starting with the introduction part. The reason why I focused on digital play when teaching language in the early grades is that the children in this era are constantly connected to their digital devices. As educators, we cannot ignore this fact, and we should take better care to include the use of digital technology in our teaching pedagogies. The research framework that I used in my study is the 5 systems of Bronfenbrenner, because that shows how the use of digital play as a pedagogical method are influenced by different spectra of life. The first system, the microsystem, involves the teacher at the center, and they were the participants in my research, and how they were influenced, or they are influenced by the learners, their peers, and the family, parents of their learners in the class. The second system, the mesosystem, involves the learner's digital knowledge and also their prior knowledge of digital play, digital methods, using digital methods. The ecosystem refers to the broader community, such as the district office, the parents' presence in the schools. The macro system is about the teacher's values, attitudes, and beliefs, and also the value of digital play. In this research, it was interesting to see how the teacher's beliefs and values and attitudes really differed from each other. Specifically in this case study, where I used one primary school, as I said, with 8 grade R teachers, their beliefs in the use of digital methodologies were vastly different. And one would think that the younger teachers would be more inclined towards digital technology, and that the older teachers would be more apprehensive and not wanted to include digital technologies in their classrooms. But that was not the case. I found that there was quite an interesting mix of beliefs. And then, of course, the last system of Bronfenbrenner's method, technology, there is the whole digital technology generation of learners that we now work with. When I prepared for my methodology, I had 4 phases. The first phase, the preparation phase, was about meeting the principal, the head of the department there, and getting all the documentation and permissions done beforehand. During the second phase, I met with the grade R teachers and introduced myself, asked them to introduce themselves and give me some background on how long they've been teaching and what they enjoy doing, not doing, etc., just to get to know them. After that, I had a baseline focus group interview with the whole group, where I explained everything, got their ideas on the methodologies that they use in their classrooms. I made then arrangements with each of them to be able to visit their classrooms, be part of their classrooms, listen to what they're doing, and to get an understanding of how they use digital methodologies. After all these observations were done, where I made my field notes, I had semi-structured individual interviews with each of these teachers to ask them more specific questions around what happened there. And in the end, I got them all together again for another focus group interview, which was it was quite nice to listen to all their comments and to hear how they changed during the course of this research, which was quite nice. In the third phase, I did my data organization and analysis, and I came up with 5 themes that I coded and placed all my information underneath. And it's all about the knowledge and understanding of digital play, the pedagogical approaches of these teachers, the pedagogical value of digital play in this language acquisition, and the fourth theme showed that digital play improves language acquisition in many different ways, not in one specific one. And then lastly, the teaching practices of enhancement of language acquisition. The next part is the key findings. And this is important in any research, the key findings. It was clear that the participating teachers in general had limited knowledge and understanding of the use of digital games as such for language acquisition in the early grades. They understood the value of digital play to enhance vocabulary, improve pronunciation, to enhance memory, to improve letter and sound recognition. But I found that the teachers used a mixture of traditional and digital pedagogical approaches. These included pictures with words on it, PowerPoint presentations, storytelling with puppets, and one teacher even used YouTube videos to show the learners pictures of animals and for them then to listen to the sounds those animals made. This specific teacher, she's a young teacher, she often uses YouTube videos in her class, and she said the learners are really involved when she shows these YouTube videos. One of the teachers made use of tablets, only one of them, in the allocated digital center of the school, where the learners played a digital game that she uploaded on each of these tablets. Here they created stories, and all along they earned rewards that moved them to the next level of the story. I researched some examples of some nice apps of digital games that enhance language acquisition and the young learners from 4 to 5-year-olds. Tom, and I'm sure you, the mothers, will be familiar with that. Here, the learners make word choices and make then connections between these words. A second one is called match games, where vocabulary, pronunciation, and word choices were enhanced or are enhanced. The third one, word games for kids, is about the pronunciation of words and sounds. Another one is reading eggs, and this helps learners with comprehension, phonics, and vocabulary. And the fifth one is Lingo Kids, where the child's language level is chosen. So there are some digital games available. It seems that teachers are really a bit apprehensive to make use of these digital games. So the recommendations that I want to enhance is that digital pedagogies need to be included in teacher training and education. And in the previous presentation, that was also one of the points made, that the training of teachers should be better done, better rethinked to include all of this. And some more digital games and apps are needed for language teaching. And I can say that the games that I found were mainly in English. So games in mother tongue of the children would help a lot for teachers to really include these digital games in their classrooms. And the conclusion that I came to is that although teachers in general, and that's not all of them, lack knowledge of digital technology and the use thereof in the classroom, it can be improved through the development of apps and digital games. Also by taking a closer look at what should be included in teacher training to prepare them much better for this digital era. And these are just some of the resources that I used, a few important ones. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to me. It's really an honor to be part of this conference. And there's just some of my contact details if somebody would like to make contact with me. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Leonie. That was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely loved hearing about research.
Thank you.
I just want to see, you came in definitely in time. I just want to see if there's questions. Handing over to participants to see if they'd like to make any comments or ask any questions. It's also great that Leonie added her contact details, so anyone can contact her if need be. There we have one question, Leonie, from Rieta Peterser. Says, thank you for the presentation. It is important to embrace the digital platform when teaching and working with young children. Could you please name the different names of the games again?
Yes, there's 5 games. Obviously, there's a lot more, but I must confess, I asked my daughter-in-law with little girls to give me the names of the ones they enjoy really. So the one is Talking Tom 2. The second one is Match Games. The third one is Word Games for Kids. The fourth one is Reading Eggs. And the fifth one is Lingo Kids. In the meantime, since my research, I completed my research and luckily got awarded with my master's degree in the process, I saw these little girls playing a lot of more games. So that is, there's quite a lot available and they're really nice and the little ones enjoy it and they get very involved. I remember the day in the classroom where I had all these tablets. It was so interesting to see how they involved in this tablet in front of them. And that is what actually made me do this research, is because I saw that the little ones are really involved and not just sitting and watching YouTube videos all the time. They're really doing something that enhances their learning, and then specifically, in this case, language learning.
That's a great response. Thanks for that. I wonder if actually I could ask a question. I'm sure you don't mind. Sure. I recently wrote a chapter for a textbook and it was on the use of media and technology in early childhood education classrooms with 0 to 4-year-olds. And I struggled quite a lot with the idea that technology creates such great opportunities for children to develop so many different skills, not just skills with the use of technology, but they're also learning, language development, social skills, numeracy skills, etc., etc. But there's also quite a lot of controversy over how early you introduce technology to children, and how much technology you use with children. And yes, obviously all technology you should be guided by a teacher or an adult or a parent, so that learning is done in the best way. But what is your take on like the negative effects of technology, or what it can take away from children in a way, and how do you balance that?
Yes, I know. I came across a lot of these comments and remarks, etc. And with everything, as with everything in life, one must have moderacy in mind all the time. And I keep on saying it's not about making this digital technology or this tablet or so the caretaker of the child. Don't hand it to them when you can actually spend some quality time with them. I agree, and I'm wholeheartedly for it, that children should play outside. Well, for all the reasons that we know, the fine and gross motor development, etc. Digital technologies cannot do all of that. But as I said at the start of my presentation, that in this digital era, we cannot ignore the fact that children are really into this digital technologies, and one must, yes, I see now Donna is also commenting there that the how must be effective. It's not just about keeping them busy so that you can do your own thing. It's really be with them while they're busy with these tablets, etc., and be involved with what they're doing, asking them questions, let them draw, paint, whatever on these tablets. And I can see the fine motor development that takes place with the little girls, that our little grandchildren, that it's a fine motor development as well. So it's not just a tablet or a smartphone, etc. And it's really to be there with them while they're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that Donna says technology is another tool, just like a pen and paper. As you mentioned, she says the how to use it effectively and for what purpose is important. And then Lisa says, so interesting as it encourages children's creativity and flexibility. Then I just wanted to raise another point, if no one else has a hand, because I'm very interested in this topic. One of the other things we came across was the idea of, if you can bring technology into classrooms that are under-resourced, it's a great way to bridge the inequality gap, because you're suddenly allowing children to access content, knowledge, tools that previously they couldn't have accessed. And it's like a high standard, a world-class content that they're able to suddenly access, which is amazing. So in a way, it can reduce the inequality gap. But at the same time, obviously, children who come from more affluent areas, families or ECD centers, are going to have more access to technology than children in lower income areas. So it's very important. And in that case, the inequality could actually be increased. So it's just important that we try and try and get that access into those low income areas as much as possible. And I think that comes down to implementers and research like this that shows the importance of technology and how much it can offer children. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, or a response to that.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with this. And actually, the school where I did my research with, the one head of department, she is involved. She's involved in a whole community project where she gets these tablets and distributed to these schools that are not that well resourced. So there's a lot of those initiatives happening, and I think in one of the previous sessions in one of the other strands, somebody spoke about that. I think it's a lecturer from UNISA, that they also want to, or they're busy with getting involved in these distribution of digital technologies to these schools that really need them. So I think that's a field that one can really explore and get people involved in that, because really it's unnecessary that only the privileged children should be able to have the access to this world. They and as you said, there's a lot of opening up of what's happening in the world when they can access these tablets, etc. And I want to add to that again, that parents must be involved, and parents must be able to say, yes, but I can control what this what my child can see and not see, because that's also a concern that I heard quite often. How do I prevent that my child goes and look at platforms where they're not actually allowed onto? So that's why a parent should stay close to their children and being involved.
Thanks. That's a great response. Thanks. It also just made me think this is a perfect example of how implementation and what is actually being done throughout South Africa needs to look at what the research shows, and research such as yours shows the impact technology has on children. I mean, that is what it is showing. And so if implementation could follow research, as opposed to just people or should I say, creating programs, offering support and development, not based on research, it's not as helpful. I saw that Benita Daniels raised a hand, but then lowered it. I'm not sure if she was being polite or didn't want to ask the question anymore. Maybe it was already answered. I'm just checking if Benita is going to unmute herself.
Yes, I saw her hand. Yes.
Benita, do you have a question, or was it already answered?
Yes, Michaela, it was answered, but I also just want to add that we must kind of just also be cautious of introducing young children at an early age to digital technology and all the rest of it, because it can have a negative effect on children. And you also just said it earlier on, Michaela, the divide is so far-fetched as well. So you have parents that would actually leave the device for the child to operate, and you have no control over that. So even if you look at abroad also, you have children that are exposed to digital apps and stuff, and yet the parent doesn't have that control over the child. And so here, I think in South Africa, we still have that, where children don't have access, not as what we would like them to have. And so they still have this play about themselves. And so I think we must just be aware of and cautious of when and how we introduce children to digital technology. Thank you.
Yes, I definitely agree with you, Benita, that and it is a concern. I mean, it really is, and the problem is just that if we as parents and as educators do not give the children the access, they will find it in the background from their friends, and that might be even worse. So that's why I'm really advocating that to make things accessible for the children and for all children would be great. I know it's on paper it sounds always good, and one really needs to get involved in making this possible for as much children as possible as can be. And I see that Donna in the chat wrote here, evidence-based practice and implementation is so important, and that is so true. That one must keep on looking for evidence and to look at how this can be followed through to make it a positive experience, because parents and people are really apprehensive towards the digital technology, but we cannot take it away from these children. It's kind of unfair to do that as well, hey?
That's a good point. I also just wanted to say, I think that idea of evidence-based practice and implementation being so important, I think that actually goes to Benita's comment as well, with the idea of younger children. And there is a lot of international research on the age where the negative effects of technology on young children outweigh the positive effects of technology on young children. And then there's a certain age where the positive effects start outweighing the negative. So like a 1-year-old, the negative effects outweigh the positive. But as they get older, then it starts flipping. And it's all about the facilitation through the parents and the teachers.
I agree with you, Michaela, that is really important. And I think Benita asked that earlier about the younger children, and I agree, and she said that now as well. I agree with you, Michaela, that the very young children should not be exposed for very long. It's only later, the 4 to 5 year olds, etc., that it really becomes a more positive experience.
Right. I think that's been an absolutely wonderful discussion, actually. I don't think there's any more questions, not on the chat nor in terms of raised hands. So all that's left for me to do is thank you so much, Leonie, for a brilliant presentation.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for hosting it, Michaela. I really enjoyed this session. It went much greater than I thought it would.
That's because we have the best participants.
Yes, I just want to say thank you, participants. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.